Hey guys, it's Tim, and this is Pro Wrestling Unlimited, as we are here on the 26th of November, 2019, to talk about pro wrestling. I'm taking this show solo tonight. No Nick. Nick had to work late at his day job because he works a job that is retail, and they have to get everything ready for Black Friday this week, so he had to stay late to set all that up. But it's all good, because I thought, hey, let's take the opportunity of a solo show and do a Q&A type deal. So I asked on the community tab. I asked on Twitter. So they gave me some questions. And also, if you want to text in or call in, we'll be taking texts and calls all night, or at least for the next hour. And you can do so at 510-906-1341. The number will be flashing on the screen periodically, and also I'll keep putting it in the live chat as well. It is 510-906-1341. Excuse me. I'm just pulling up the Twitter questions. I've got the YouTube questions already. But let's see who's here with us in the live chat. We've got George John Cox, Luke Might, Randy Flores, Nicholas Altimore, Elijah Washington, Henry McKenna Cavallo. And I see the main discussion you guys are having right now in the live chat has to do with Bray Wyatt, more specifically maybe Liv Morgan. So a tweet was sent out earlier today by one of WWE's seamstress and costume designers. And it was a video of her drawing up a costume. She was putting like the finishing touches on her sketch. The Firefly Funhouse theme was playing in the background over the video. And her tweet said, "Let her in." Which is interesting. Let her in. Now, I don't want to call this a rumor or speculation or anything, because we don't know. But what people are trying to say on Twitter, what people themselves are trying to speculate, is that it could be Liv Morgan. Excuse me. Many people think that it's going to be Liv Morgan for a couple of different reasons. A, we haven't heard from Liv Morgan in a while. B, we do know that she's changing up her character. And C, she's been giving hints of a darker character when she does return, possibly. So that's why a lot of people think maybe it can be Liv Morgan. Maybe this new, because WWE stated last night during Raw in a commercial for SmackDown is Bray Wyatt will introduce a new face to the Firefly Funhouse, but they were very vague about that. They didn't say if that was a new face as far as a new puppet. They didn't say if that was a new face as far as putting Daniel Bryan's picture on the wall because he beat Daniel Bryan. They didn't say if that's a new face. There's a bunch of different things that it can be as far as this new face. And so we'll have to wait till SmackDown to see how it all does go. But a lot of people think that it could be Liv Morgan. And here's the thing with that, though. Excuse me. So Liv Morgan was originally drafted to, why can't I think right now, to Monday Night Raw. So everyone's like, well, it can't be Liv Morgan. It can't be Liv Morgan. She's supposed to be on Raw. That doesn't matter. That really does not matter. A, they can trade her, or B, remember when Andrade was moved to Monday Night Raw in the Superstar Shakeup, and then the same week he was moved back to SmackDown? They can just move people if they want. It doesn't really matter where they were drafted. Henry McKenna Cavallo says Ruby Riott is a better fit for the Sister Abigail character. Well, we don't know if this is quote-unquote Sister Abigail. She could just be Liv Morgan joining the Funhouse. We don't know exactly what this is going to be. And we don't even know if that quote-unquote tease that was put out is even related to what's going to happen possibly this week. We don't know. So we'll play it by ear. We'll see what goes down. We'll see what happens with it. But it could be Liv Morgan. It could be somebody else. For all we know, like I said last night, it could just be another puppet. So who the heck knows? So with that, if anybody wants to call in or text in, you can do so at 510-906-1341. You can be part of the show, either with a phone call or a text message, as we will get into the questions here shortly. Just pulling them up. I had the excuse me. I had the Twitter questions up, and then they kind of went away on me. I think I clicked the wrong button. But let's see right here. Oh, I found him. Come on. Load. There we go. Sometimes Chrome just doesn't want to load. It's fine. So the first question we do have here is from Willie's Network. And he does state, what would be your dream match of an AEW versus WWE crossover? Very good question. I like that one. And I'm going to give my what's it called? Singles match dream match and my tag team dream match. For tag team, there's two. It would either be Young Bucks and the Usos or Young Bucks and Revival. As far as tag team or singles match goes, I would love to see Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega. That's what I would like to see. So, we'll see. It'll never happen. No, but it'll be interesting. It would be an interesting matchup, both of those. And Revival and Bucks could happen sooner rather than later. Revival's contracts are up right after WrestleMania, and if they don't re-sign, they can go to AEW. We got a non-wrestling question here, but Mr. Worldwide Pitbull Fan Club says, what's the update on Quicksilver coming back to the MCU? He's not. I get why people think he can, because he was part of the X-Men series that Disney has acquired from Fox, but he was killed in the MCU. Age of Ultron, they killed Quicksilver. So Quicksilver can't come back to life in the MCU. Just saying. So going forward, we've got the questions here on YouTube. Those are the only two that were submitted through Twitter. Again, if you guys want to call or text in tonight, actually, we got a call coming in right now. Let's take this call. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hello, Cam.
How are you doing?
Good. I have two questions.
Okay.
One is off topic.
Sure.
Which is better, NASCAR or football?
NASCAR, 100%. I don't rarely watch football unless someone else in the house puts it on.
And another question, I saw you put up I have a predict.
Okay.
But when you mentioned Marty Scurll, contract be up next week, but he runs for Ring of Honor on September the 4th, right?
He'll be doing the Final Battle show on December 13th.
Yeah. I think people would guess Shawn Morrison might show up at Royal Rumble, but I think Marty will be a surprise.
Do you think Marty Scurll will be a surprise in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, just like Rey Mysterio or AJ Styles was.
So I want to say thank you for your call. I don't think he'll be a surprise in the Royal Rumble. I think if Marty Scurll comes in and signs with the WWE, he's going to NXT. He's got to go start in NXT, and I think that would be good for him, actually. He could be the top dog there once Adam Cole moves up. He could take that heel spot, that top heel spot, unless they put it to Balor. We don't know yet, but I really think if Marty Scurll does come to the WWE, I think him starting in NXT would be a good bet, a better bet than just throwing him out on the main roster. They did it with AJ Styles. They did it with Gallows and Anderson. AJ's a bigger, more widely known name than Marty Scurll. So, Scurll may get a good reaction coming out at the Royal Rumble. But that's because that's going to be, you go to Royal Rumble, you're one of the hardest hardcores. You're one of the more, I watch everything, most likely. I don't just watch WWE kind of fan. And so I think those fans will give him a good reaction. But it's when you get to putting him on Raw or putting him on SmackDown and you go to all these other random cities, is Marty Scurll going to be getting the same reactions as he may get coming out at the Royal Rumble every single week? That's going to be the big question. So I think starting him out in NXT would be the better bet to get the WWE audience more used to seeing him, knowing who he is, knowing his character and how he goes. But let's check some of the questions we do have here on YouTube. Austin Saxton does state, who do you think will win the 2 Royal Rumbles in 2020, and what would be their WrestleMania match? Ooh, that's a tough one. So if the titles don't change hands before WrestleMania, then we know the 2 champions for the men would be Brock and Fiend. So it's going to be maybe one of them. And for the women, it would be either Bayley or Becky if those titles don't change, which I don't see those titles changing. And so who would I pick to win the men's Rumble? Right now, I may go Kevin Owens and have Kevin Owens challenge Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. That's something I would do. As far as the women's Royal Rumble goes, I'd go all in with Shayna Baszler against Becky Lynch. I'd have Shayna Baszler show up, win the Royal Rumble, and then challenge Becky. That's what I would do. I'd have Shayna win the Women's Rumble. I'd have, Owens win the Men's Rumble. That's what I would do. Luke Might here says, when will Brian Cage and Taya leave Impact? I don't know if they will. I don't know when Brian Cage's contract is up. I've been hearing rumblings that Taya's could be coming up soon. But Taya did do an interview recently stating that she's happy in Impact and that she would be okay with staying with Impact and her husband working for another promotion, hence John Morrison coming to WWE. So there's no guarantee that Taya would leave. And as far as Brian Cage goes, he's pretty happy in Impact as well. He's been pushed as one of, if not the top guy, basically for the last 6 months. Yeah, he lost the title to Sami Callihan at the last pay-per-view, but so you can still be pushed as one of the top guys, not be the champion. So I don't see Brian Cage leaving. Taya, I can see her staying as well. But if I had to pick one of them as a more likely chance to leave, I would probably say Taya, just because Morrison's already gone and he's signing with WWE and whatnot. Luke might also ask, would it be a bad idea to put John Morrison in NXT? Yeah. Very bad. I can't say very bad. I just think that he's an established name with the WWE audience, and you don't have to. So let me use Drew McIntyre as an example. Drew McIntyre was in WWE. They used him well when he first started as the chosen one. Then he got put in 3MB, and they released him. He went out on the indies, went to Impact, made a big name for himself, and then they re-signed him. Now you can say, well, he was a main roster star. Why did they put him in NXT? Because he's different now. Because he rebuilt himself. He's not the Drew McIntyre 3MB that we knew before. So putting him in NXT showed us that. Showed us that this is the new and improved Drew McIntyre. With Morrison, we don't need that. He's still John Morrison. He hasn't changed. He hasn't really evolved. Not in a bad way. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. He hasn't really evolved or anything. He doesn't need to. He's still cool, super charismatic, super athletic John Morrison. And he doesn't need to be anything else but that. So I think putting him in NXT is not needed and not really the best of ideas. I say he comes straight to the main roster, and you can make him, within a month or two, challenging for the U.S. or IC title easily, that quickly. One final one from Luke Might. He says, if you were in control of WWE, would you turn Roman Reigns heel? Not anymore. I may have a year ago, but not anymore. George John Cox says, who had the best match this weekend? And who had the best heel turn as well? Best match of the weekend was the Women's Rumble. And Dakota Kai had the best heel turn, bar none. Samuel Ornelas has a question, but it's kind of an open-ended question that I can't really answer. He says, how would you book WWE if it all restarted? And I don't understand that. What do you mean by restarted? Like, there's no roster at all, and I had to go out and hire a bunch of people? Or the rosters are all set up for a draft, and I had to draft the rosters like we just saw a month ago with Raw and SmackDown. So I really can't answer your question because it's so open-ended. Killjoy Army says, when NXT's contract expires with Full Sail, next go to Europe, South Africa, etc. No, I don't see I don't see NXT on Wednesdays airing from another country. There's no reason for it. The main roster does it because it's encompassed with their 2-week or week and a half long European tour. So that's why it works then. But I just don't see, because you're not going to go and do, you're not going to go and do a long tour of those countries with the NXT brand. Maybe a specialized takeover, like we saw with NXT TakeOver London. But we're not going to see a Wednesday show from, Europe or South Africa. It's just not, I don't want to say not possible, but it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? Monetarily a good idea. It'll cost them way more than it would actually earn them. Nicholas Altimore says, what do you think they will do with 205 Live? Will they cancel it later down the line? I don't think they will. They announced today that Lio Rush will be defending the NXT Cruiserweight Championship against Tozawa this Friday night on 205 Live. So 205 Live is the Cruiserweight division, is part of the WWE's NXT brand. And I don't see them going any way with canceling it. No, not at all. Chris McNutt, I don't know where you heard that, but it ain't true. As far as I know, that is not true at all. She asked if Renee Young divorced Jon Moxley. No, not that I have heard. I can ask about it and see if I can find something out. But as far as I know, no. And I've got WWE Backstage on, so let's see if she's still wearing her wedding ring when she comes back on screen. Let's take a call before we go with more of the questions. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hello, Tim. What's up, man?
Not much. Yourself?
So I have a question for you.
Go for it.
All right. If you could bring back any wrestler from the dead, who would it be and what match would you put him against with any superstar from any wrestling company? Yeah.
That's tough. Because when you say, before you asked match-wise or everything, when you just said who can you bring back from the dead, the first name I thought was Roddy Piper.
Ooh, that's a good one, yes.
But then you asked who would I put him with, and that's where it gets harder. Because my first thought was Roddy Piper. He can be somebody's manager, cut some great promos, do great things. But now when you ask who would I put him against,
yeah.
So that changes the question a little bit more. And I'm gonna go away from Piper for a second. Why I think it would be cool to bring back Brian Pillman, and let's see Brian Pillman versus son Brian Pillman Jr.
That'd be
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think Roddy Piper. Because, like I said, that was the first name that popped into my head, so I want to continue with that. And if I was to put Piper with anybody in a match today, I honestly think he would have a good match with Cody.
That would be pretty good, yeah.
Cody works that, I don't want to say old school style, because it's not really, but Cody's good at adapting to all styles. And the Piper, way Piper wrestled is, I guess, closest to Cody as anybody I can think of right now. So that would be one thing, the one that I would do. I'd probably do Pillman versus Pillman Jr., and then maybe Piper versus Cody.
Yeah. So, and my other question is about Seth Rollins.
Okay.
Where are they going with this supposedly heel turn? I mean,
so we've had 24 hours to digest this and think about this and say, okay, this is a real heel turn. Because last night I was skeptical of it, but I think this is a real heel turn. And what the character to me is, Seth is a heel that doesn't fully think he's a heel and thinks he's always right and the best. And so his thought process is, well, I need to tell everybody else what they need to do to be better. I need to put it on me to make them better. But in the process, he's going to be an asshole about it like he was last night. So that's the road and the way I think he's going to be going with it. As far as, like I said, a heel that doesn't 100% think he's a heel, thinks he's doing the right things, but doing it in a heelish manner.
Yeah, so he's not going to be like the heel that he was back when he was in the Authority, correct?
I mean, he could. We don't know what this AOP thing's going to be. If he's leading the AOP, maybe. But as of right now, all we can go off is what we saw last night, and that's the impression that I got.
Yeah. Now with NXT and stuff this weekend, with them like being on Raw and SmackDown, could you like see more of that like down in the future? Like NXT being on like a pay-per-view or like on Raw and SmackDown?
Maybe the Royal Rumble. But
Yeah.
that's about it. Because Triple H did state in the media call last week, once Survivor Series is over, brands are exclusive. You're on Raw, you're on Raw. You're on SmackDown, you're on SmackDown. You're NXT, you're NXT. He said that will make way more sense once Survivor Series is over. So I don't think we're going to see much, if any, cross-brand pollination and guys going from Raw to SmackDown or NXT to Raw. I don't think we'll really be getting much of that going forward until maybe Royal Rumble. Because we have seen NXT guys in the Royal Rumble the last couple of years.
Right. And then with Chris Jericho, with this big cruise thing coming up in Tampa, Florida, are they going to record that and put it on TNT?
Yes. So what they're doing, they cannot do it live. But the January 22nd episode of Dynamite will all be filmed on the Jericho cruise. The reason they don't want to do it live is because they're going to be out at sea. They don't know how well their connection's going to be to whatever they need to, the satellites or whatever it is to connect to the feed for TNT. So they don't want to have something happen to where they're doing, matches for Dynamite. They're doing Dynamite live from the cruise and the feed just cuts because it's very unpredictable.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do is, I want to say maybe the day before or 2 days before, they're going to film stuff and then they'll put it all together and it'll be the first pre-recorded episode of AEW Dynamite.
Nice. All right. Thanks, and you have a good night. And I'll be listening to the podcast.
Thanks for the call. Have a great night.
Yep. Bye.
So, like I stated, I've got WWE Backstage on, and good news for Samoa Joe. He's no longer wearing like a cast or any tape on his wrist, so it looks like Joe healing up very well. I know Samoa Joe did state on Twitter last night he's going to be back on commentary next week for Monday Night Raw, so it looks like he's not ready to return to the ring quite yet, but it is a good sign to see that he does not have the cast on anymore or the brace. That's really, really good. AJ Maliota says, Nick on the show tonight? No, Nick's actually got to work. Nick is stuck at his day job getting that place ready for Black Friday. Let's take another call. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Oh, man, I'm doing all right. Tim, I would like to, Tim, in your honest opinion, who do you think are the best commentators, not in wrestling, but I'm getting my mistake. Who do you think the best commentators are, period? Not just WWE, but like anyone. Who do you think are the best commentators, in your honest opinion?
So, I'm going to have to look at NASCAR on Fox and say Mike Joy. As far as somebody, he knows you will not find another commentator in NASCAR that knows as much about vehicles as this man, as much about the sport as this man, and has been doing it. I don't think there's another, at least in NASCAR, commentator that's been doing it as long as him. He's been doing it since like the 70s. So when I look at he was doing interviews first, and then they put him in the booth. But he's been, overall been a broadcast position since the 70s. So if I had to pick my favorite commentator out of any sport, I would probably go with Mike Joy, who does NASCAR on Fox.
Nice, but okay, if we were to pick wrestling commentators, no specific brand or company, right. Who do you think is who is I wouldn't say your top 5, but who do you personally like? Personally, I love Nigel McGuinness because he's actually wrestled and he knows what he's talking about, and also I don't know what it is. I like Excalibur. I don't know what it is about the guy, but I like Excalibur.
That's exactly what I would have said. Nigel and Excalibur.
Really? Yeah, exactly I like Nigel. I like Nigel the most because he actually wrestled, and I saw him wrestle. But it's fortunate I never got to see. I wish he would wrestle in WWE. It's unfortunate what happened to him, but
yeah,
he knows what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's very knowledgeable about the sport.
Would you call him the best? Would you call him? Is it safe to say he's the best in wrestling right now? Is it safe to say that, or do you have someone else?
So, as far as Nigel, I would probably say yes. But him and Excalibur, if you really think about it, well, no, they're the same. Because I was going to say that one's play-by-play and one's color. But I think they're about this. They're both color commentary. So I would go Nigel as the best, in my opinion, right now.
I would go with that too. Every time I hear him, I'm just like, man, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. He's great.
Yeah, and then you've got if I were to pick a top 3, I'd pick Nigel as number 1, Excalibur at number 2, but I may have a tie at number 2 between Excalibur and Tony Schiavone because Tony Schiavone sounds like he really hasn't lost a beat since his WCW days.
I miss WCW. I miss WCW. I'm a little too old for that. I mean, my bad. I'm a little too young. So gotcha. You would know better than me.
Well, I started watching right towards the tail end of WCW and really didn't watch much WCW when it was still around. Most of what I've seen of WCW was going back and watching after WWE bought them. I
kind of came into WWE when it was WWF like later on, so I really didn't see what happened on back in the day. But I still know a little bit. But,
right.
I still know a little bit. Well, thanks for taking my call, Tim.
Not a problem. Thanks for the call and have a great night.
You too, my man.
Got a super chat donation here from Kristen McNutt. She says, what is your plans for Thanksgiving? For the review for NXT or AEW, by the way. So what I'm going to do is the AEW review will be tomorrow night's review, Wednesday night. And then I'm not sure when the NXT review will go up. It will be a pre-recorded review. I will not be doing that live, but it will either go up sometime Thursday or first thing Friday morning. I'm not 100% sure if I will have time on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, to record a long podcast like that. So if I can maybe watch NXT right after we do the AEW review and then just do it right then we'll go with that. But I'm going to do the AEW review tomorrow because that show is supposed to be a stacked show, supposed to be considered like a mini pay-per-view. So that should be interesting. And then we'll have the NXT review go up, like I said, either Thursday or first thing, like 6 a.m. Pacific Friday morning. Just looking here. If anybody else does want to call or text in, you can do so at 510-906-1341. Again, the number is 510-906-1341. We've got a text message here. And this person says, what's the reason that Lynch did not show up on last night's Raw? No real reason. She was supposed to be on the show, and her segment got cut. She was supposed to, at least what I heard was, she was supposed to react to Shayna winning at the pay-per-view. But why it got cut, I really don't know. That's just all that info I was able to get, was the Becky segment got cut for time. I got some more questions here on YouTube. Nicholas Altimore says, when do you think we will get more public releases in a big group? I'm not sure what you're asking there. Nicholas, I know you're in the live chat, so can you elaborate on that question? Your question was, when do you think we will get more public releases in a big group? Are you asking, like, when is WWE going to do one of their purge releases and release like 4 or 5 people at once? Is that your question? Because that's how I took it. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're asking. I know you're in the live chat, so just let me know, like, clarify what your question actually is. We got another text message here. Person says, I hear Liv Morgan returning with Bray. Total speculation. We don't know that. That is just what people think. That is just what people are trying to put out there on Twitter, but there is no confirmation on that. So whatever you read about Liv Morgan possibly joining the Firefly Funhouse, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because there's no actual word on, hey, is she the one? We've got teases that make people think that, but nothing that confirms or says, hey, this is what she's doing. So Nicholas says that was what he was. So I perceived his question right. And I really don't know if we'll get that really ever again, especially as long as AEW is around. As long as AEW is around, WWE is not really wanting to let many people out at all. So getting another one of those mass 4, 5, 6 people releases, I don't see it happening anytime soon, at least. One final question we do have here. It says, where do we go here with NXT? You start building up Worlds Collide. The night before Royal Rumble, it's going to be NXT versus NXT UK. Basically, another Survivor Series before NXT and NXT UK. So you can, in December, you can just do a bunch of stuff like you're going to do. Like there's a tag title match tomorrow. Ciampa's got a challenge, most likely, going down the line for the NXT Championship. And then once we get into January, you can start building up the NXT versus NXT UK stuff. Also, we do know that there's an NXT UK takeover on, I want to say, January 12th from Blackpool. Let me know in the comments or the chat if I got that date right. I'm not 100% sure if it's the 12th, but it's, I think, right around there. But let's take another call. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Tim, I call and I have a confession. I am a pro wrestling guy.
Okay.
I'm a pro wrestling unlimited guy.
Well, thank you.
Nice plug there. So I get into this debate with Attitude Era fans, and this is, I'm trying not to be too long-winded, but I've been trying to call and get your opinion on this forever. I tell people, remember the Attitude Era? They go, oh yeah, it was great. You know, DX, Stone Cold, The Rock, all. Like, yeah, awesome. But what about the pro wrestling? Like, think of the matches. I tell them, like, a lot of them were okay. Like, don't tell me Stone Cold is better than Kenny Omega in the ring. Don't tell me The Rock is better than AJ Styles. Don't tell me The Undertaker is better than Okada, because they're not. But people will see them as greater. So let's wave a magic wand.
Okay.
And take today's talent. All the guys in WWE, all the guys in NXT, New Japan, and spread them out however you want to spread them. But put them back in the Attitude Era. Let's say, for instance, AEW is WCW, and today's WWE is Attitude Era WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Is it as good because of the talent? Like was the Attitude Era great because of the characters? Like, could you make today's characters Attitude Era great characters? And would the Attitude Era characters be good in today's age?
And you just answered your question there. You almost can't compare it. You just asked, can the today characters work in the Attitude Era? Probably not. Because wrestling has evolved and is completely different from what it was 20 years ago. If you really think about it, what we see today as the norm, Kevin Owens, a bigger guy out there doing swanton bombs, Seth Rollins, a 6-foot-something, 220 guy out there working like he's under 200, that wasn't the norm back then. What was the norm was The Rock, a super athletic guy that can go out there and have great matches with just about anybody. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who may not have been the best athlete in the ring, but can tell a great story in the ring. So if you transfer those guys to now, I think there's a better chance that the Attitude Era guys can still work now and be over and good, as opposed to bringing the guys of now back to the Attitude Era. It's just way too different, if you get my drift. Now, when you ask, is Kenny Omega better than Stone Cold Steve Austin? Again, you can't compare the two, because how are you going to compare the two when Kenny Omega's out there doing the Terminator dive? Kenny Omega's out there doing Hurricane Ranas and dragon suplexes off the top rope. You're never going to see Stone Cold do those kind of moves. But what you're going to see is Stone Cold tell a great emotional story in the ring. Omega can do that too. But you can't compare their styles. You can't say who's better than the other in the ring, because they wrestle completely different.
Right.
You can't go out there and say, Undertaker and Okada. Did you watch the Undertaker Stone Cold thing on the WWE Network after Survivor Series?
Yeah.
So you heard when Undertaker said that when he came into WWE, he would have liked to have worked a faster, more athletic style, but it wouldn't work for his character. So when you really think about that, and he said he was finally able to do so when he came back as the American Badass. That's the style he wanted to work the entire time, but knew that for the dead man character, for what it was in the 90s, wouldn't have worked. So when you think about it, when you try to compare Undertaker to Okada, Undertaker back then could have been just as good as Okada is athletically in the ring, but we would never know because he didn't work it per his character. He could have done the drop kicks, the fast-paced stuff, working with, the faster guys and keeping up with them. He could have. He said that he was that athletic. But the Undertaker character didn't work like that. Had to be a more slow, methodical, powerful type character. So it's too hard to say, is this guy now better than this guy from 20 years ago? You can't say that, because it's completely different. The landscape of all pro wrestling has evolved, changed. It's not the same at all. And like I said, all these fast-paced, high-flying guys, back in 97, 98, nobody would have thought of them as top guys. They would have just all been cruiserweights, light heavyweights.
So what you're saying is, back then, I love both areas. I love wrestling. That's why I said I'm a pro wrestling guy.
Right.
I just find myself watching Attitude Era matches and looking, I'm like, the build-up is great. The hype was great. The video package was great. And I look at the match, I'm like, the match was okay. Like Austin Hart was probably my favorite match from the Attitude Era. That match was incredible.
Match.
Yeah, and I think what you're trying to say is, what you explained back to me, is that back in that day, Attitude Era, the currency was character. Now the currency is more what you can do in the ring versus necessarily your character.
Yeah, because nowadays we don't have many quote-unquote characters. You don't got an Undertaker type character where you're supposed to think that he's a paranormal figure. You don't have trash men. You don't have disco dancing guys. You've got people. We've kind of drifted away from characters. You still have some characters, but it's far and few nowadays. Yeah. And so, also, what I was going to get at too is when you try to compare now to the Attitude Era as a whole, not just specific wrestlers, now is better. Because if you go back and you watch old Nitros, you go back, you watch old Monday Night Raws, other than whoever was on top, like on Raw, if it was an Undertaker, a Stone Cold, a Rock match, those were great. Everybody else was just average. You go to WCW, if it was a Goldberg match, a Sting match, a Hogan match, everybody else was just average on those shows. At least nowadays, when you watch a wrestling show, whether that be New Japan, AEW, or WWE, you're going to get, most of the time, better than average matches from a lot of the roster. Unlike back then, when there was a lot of they tried to overbook stories and it was just average matches coming out of it for the most part.
Yes, yeah, that's. I think that's what it is. I think we made a breakthrough. I think that's what it is. There was so much emphasis on the character. The match quality often, took a hit for that.
Correct.
That's what I look back and people say, "Oh, it's super great." I'm like, "It's super great." Don't get me wrong. I have so many good memories of all the things that happened. But like when I look at the wrestling, I'm like, that's what, like, but that's always found myself wondering. I'm like, if these guys were back then, would they be as good? But I think you're right. I think the Attitude Era guys would have a better chance surviving now, as today's crop would have surviving
Right.
back then.
Very true. I mean, that's how I look at it. Everybody can have their own opinion. I mean, you may not agree with me 100%. Someone else may not agree with me at all.
Yeah, you opened my eyes. That's why I called and asked you. I was trying to figure it out myself, and I think you absolutely nailed it on the head by saying, "Hey, yeah, I think it's about how wrestling has evolved, and like now it is more about the in-ring action,
Right.
Which I think kind of hurts the wrestling because I think they don't put as much emphasis on the character building, which is kind of the reason why some products are staler than others. But I don't know. And one more thing before I let you go, real quick question: who is going to be the second AEW champion?
So who do I think will take the title from Jericho?
Yeah, and when? Because not to let you answer that. Are they going to let Jericho go to Wrestle Kingdom 14 and probably lose to Tanahashi?
The match is set.
Champion?
The match is set.
Yeah. So are they going to let the AEW champion go over to New Japan and job to the New Japan guy?
I mean, he's not losing that title on free television. He's not going to drop it to Scorpio Sky tomorrow.
Oh, no. But there's a show on January 1st. Just saying.
But there's not a pay-per-view. I don't think he loses that title till at least Double or Nothing in next May. I mean, that may be too far out. I know they got a pay-per-view. They haven't announced it yet, but the next pay-per-view is going to be in either end of February, early March.
Okay.
And so maybe he holds it till then. That would give him September, October, November, December, January, February, March. A 6-7 month run. I think 6 months is good.
Okay.
But as far as who takes the title from him, that's the bigger question. Because we know it can't be Cody, because Cody said he's going to stick with his stipulation. I won't challenge for the belt.
Right.
And then when you look at, right now the number one ranked guy, this can change after tomorrow though, Pac.
Yeah.
He's number one ranked. I mean, Pac's, I think, deserved of a title shot. But I think if you want a baby face, because I don't know if this is just being conditioned by WWE on how you do things. This is how they've always done it. A baby face should take the title from the heel.
Right.
So maybe tomorrow they start building up Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega maybe takes the title from him.
Yeah, I've been like, I love AEW. I love everything they're doing. But it's like, man, like, and they joke about him being the elite. I was like, they're treating Kenny like a jobber. I'm like, why? I get they want to put Jericho out there because he's a well-known commodity, and Omega isn't as over in the United States yet because people didn't really watch New Japan.
Right.
I'm like, this is Kenny Omega, the best bout machine. They need to book him like the best bout machine that he is. But maybe they start the
here's the
road
thing they're
to redemption.
Doing. That's exactly what I was about to say. They put Kenny on a losing streak, so then he can go a little crazy and say, man, I can't win. I need to change things up. I need to do something different. And then he can, go through a, like you said, redemption streak. But also, if we think of it, like I said, a babyface needs to take the title from Jericho. Jericho's the heel. A babyface should take the title from him. What other babyface other than Cody have they put in that kind of position to be a top guy? I can't think of another babyface. The only two babyfaces, and some may say Moxley because we don't know if he's a babyface or a heel.
Right.
But it's like, who have they really built up as, other than Cody, a top babyface? Omega? Maybe Moxley, if we're supposed to believe that he's a babyface because he gets the babyface reaction. And he doesn't really do too much heelish things, to be honest.
Right.
So it's like...
Yeah, that's really it. That's really their top-level guys. Those guys are over, but they're kind of like, you're not going to see Darby Allin beat Jericho for the title or so. I mean, yeah.
And in the live chat, the finisher here says, you forgot about Hangman Page. No, I didn't, because outside of All Out, Hangman's been a mid-card guy. Other than his title match against Jericho at All Out in the first title match, Hangman's, to me, been a mid-card guy.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't think...
He wasn't lying when he said on being the elite. He's like the least successful of the elite members. I mean, it's like that's kind of true.
So, to me, I think if anyone's going to take the title from him, I say maybe do it at that next pay-per-view, end of February, early March, which would be a 6-month run with the belt for Jericho, which is, I think, a good, decent run to establish your first champion. And the only names that I can think of as of today, they can build somebody up that we're unexpecting by then. But as of today, I think either Omega or Moxley.
I'm hoping it's Omega because, yeah, it's Omega. But we'll see. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, then. Appreciate you taking the call.
Not a problem. Thanks for the call and have a great night.
All right.
So with that, we do have a text message here. This person in the text message says, what do you think of Seth and AOP maybe getting together, being how long do you think it will last, and what 3 men you think is a great challenge for them? So if they are a thing, if we are getting a Seth Rollins stable with the AOP, looks like he's going to be feuding with Kevin Owens, so why not throw Kevin Owens' buddies from a couple weeks ago with him, Street Profits and Owens versus AOP and Seth Rollins, if that's a direction they would want to go. I'd dig it. I'd dig it. Just looking here before we do wrap things up. Sorry about that. I got WWE backstage on, and it looks like Christian's about to maybe do a spin-a-rooney. Joe did a spin-a-rooney. Oh Lord. Christian's about to do a spin-a-rooney. Jason Dalton, you say live. Live what? What are you asking about, bud? I'm just looking at the live chat before we do wrap things up here. This person in the text messages does state, I believe Moxley or Hangman can take the title from Chris, and they might have Jericho as the longest reigning champion in my eyes. I don't see Hangman anymore. I see Hangman maybe as that first mid-card champ. That first, mid-card champ. Maybe not the first, maybe the second. But I don't see Hangman right now at the level of world champion, or I just don't. Just looking here. No. I thought we had another text message, but we did not. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody who joined me here live, everybody that submitted questions, everybody that sent in some text messages, everybody that called in tonight. Thank you for making this a great Q&A episode. Had some actually really great, insightful questions that got me thinking. And it was more, and I like that I got from some of the callers more of those insightful questions that wasn't just a one-liner answer. So with that, I want to say thank you guys for joining me here live for this episode of the PW Unlimited Podcast. Thank you for watching later, if you're watching here later on YouTube or listening on podcast services all around the world like iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and so many more. We'll be live again tomorrow night following AEW Dynamite for that review. And then, like I stated, the NXT review will be a pre-recorded show, and it will go up either sometime on Thursday or first thing, like 6 a.m. Friday morning Pacific time. But it will be up this week. We will have an NXT review for you guys. No worries, no fuss. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.